Hey, everybody. Well, welcome to our second informational meeting for the Hanford Sitewide Permit. I have captions on. Ryan Miller. Can you turn the captions off?
That might be on you.
Pardon us, technical difficulties right here to start. Yeah, so we're here for the second informational meeting for the Sitewide Permit. And my name is Dana McFadden. I have Eddie Holbrook here and Annette Carlson, and we're going to give you a short presentation on the history and some stuff to know about the Sitewide Permit, and then we'll have a question and answer session. Tonight, we're not taking comments. This is all informational question and answer. We are going to have public hearings in the fall. So you can look at our website and find out information about the hearings. Is it me?
It is.
It's me. Hold on just a second. Let me uncaption everything. Where? Why is it showing? Where am I doing? Nope, that one.
Yeah, it was just on the screens too, so I think we're on.
You think so?
Yeah, it's not on the Zoom. It's just here in the room.
Oh, okay. Then I'll go back to here. Ta-da. Okay, so now I will hand it over to Eddie.
All right, well, I appreciate folks that are joining us this evening for our second public information meeting related to the Hanford Sitewide Permit. As Dana had mentioned, we go to the next slide.
Maybe. There it is.
All right, so we're going to do an overview of the draft Hanford Sitewide Permit Revision 9A, which is out for public comment that started on June 29th. We're going to share some more information about how you can provide input and how you can learn about the permit and the facilities on the Hanford site. And we'll do some Q&A at the end of this as well for folks that are interested in commenting on the permit or learning about the permit itself. So just want to talk a little bit about why it matters. The Hanford Sitewide Permit, the facilities that we permit support cleanup and progress the cleanup mission. You know, for example, the waste treatment plant, vitrifying tank waste, the facilities that are safely storing waste in the Hanford site and the other treatment activities that are going on, such as the effluent treatment facility. These all are activities on the Hanford site for cleanup that progress the safe, efficient, and environmentally protective cleanup of the site itself. The other reason why this permit, this draft permit that we have out is important, is it gets us to one standard. For the longest time, we've been operating under multiple standards under the Rev 8C permit, and we're looking to get to one standard so Hanford can operate to that standard and ecology can oversee to that standard. It is also important for us to get public input this time around again. There were significant changes to the permit from the 2012 public comment period. So we're looking for the public's input and look forward to those comments. And we want to prioritize and value those comments as well. So a little bit of background. We covered this in the June 10th information meeting, but we still want to go over it for anybody that's new to this particular meeting. The Hanford site created plutonium for the nuclear weapon complex from 1944 to the late 1980s. In 1989, the tri-party agreement was established and signed. And ever since 1989, the mission at the Hanford site has been cleanup of the contamination and the waste that was left behind. Since 1989 and the tri-party agreement signing, ecology has been one of two regulators that oversee the cleanup activities on the Hanford site. And we also facilitate the permit that we're talking about tonight. So a little more about the permit itself. So the permit is a tool for ecology to oversee the Hanford site and for the Department of Energy and the contractors that operate to. The goal of our current permit is to be protective of human health and the environment, be consistent and enforceable. And again, this draft permit, we're looking to be responsive to comments that we've received during the 120-day public comment period. There are 52 facilities that are associated with this permit on the Hanford site. All right. A little bit about the Hanford Sitewide Permit. The permit was first established and issued in 1994. We currently operate to the Revision 8C of the permit. Under Revision 8C, there are 22 unit groups that operate to final status standards. The rest of the unit groups are still covered under the permit under what's called interim status standards. Since we've been working on revision 9A since 2012, we had an obligation to continue the cleanup mission and work with Department of Energy. So we continue to maintain revision 8C of the permit. Some modifications that have occurred during that time frame are getting WTP up online for direct feed low activity waste treatment to start, getting the integrated disposal facility into operation, permitting modifications associated with getting cesium and strontium capsules from wet storage to dry storage in the capsule interim storage facility. All right, so what you need to know about revision 9A. What we did for revision 9A was incorporate the comments from the 2012 public comment period. We worked closely with Department of Energy and EPA on addressing deficiencies and implementing guidance that we received. We are holding a 120-day public comment period that started on June 29th, 2026, as I had mentioned, and there are a total of 52 unit groups in this revision. If you're wondering a little bit about what unit groups are and what the makeup of unit groups are for the Hanford Sitewide Permit, there are 4 types of unit groups that are in this permit that you will see. We have operating unit groups. 14 of those are operating unit groups. As I had mentioned, direct feed low activity waste, effluent treatment facility, some other facilities such as the Central Waste Complex are facilities that store and treat waste on the Hanford site. We have 34 closure unit groups. A good example of that is outside storage area B. These are unit groups that no longer have a mission for the Hanford site. They no longer store waste or treat waste, and Department of Energy is obligated to close those. So we have closure plans associated with those. We have post-closure unit groups and corrective action unit groups. All right, so since 2012, as I mentioned, we have significantly rewrote the permit to address those comments and those deficiencies that we observed. We have moved those 30 unit groups that are under interim status standards to final status standards. So having us under one standard for the Hanford site is extremely important to us. And we've significantly updated standard conditions that apply to the entire Hanford Sitewide Permit, unit-specific conditions for each one of the facilities on the Hanford site, as well as the attachments that apply in the Hanford Sitewide Permit. We got some questions in the June 10th meeting about what doesn't apply for the Hanford Sitewide Permit. So I thought it'd be important for us to kind of address some of those and certainly answer any other questions that folks might have. So transportation off the Hanford site is not covered under this permit. Those are covered under hazardous material requirements that are identified under U.S. Department of Transportation requirements. Waste that's only radioactive is not necessarily covered under this permit. Activities that are happening under the Comprehensive Environmental Response Compensation and Liability Act, CERCLA, or Superfund cleanup, are not necessarily covered under this permit. We have a separate permit for air quality requirements on the Hanford site. And we also have wastewater discharge permits that dictate activities on the Hanford site for discharges that are occurring. I believe there's 4 of those permits. Also not covered under this permit, some of the other facilities that the nuclear waste program is responsible for, such as Perma-Fix Northwest, just north of Richland, the Puget Sound Naval Shipyard in Bremerton, Washington, activities under US Ecology or the Columbia Generating Station. Those are not covered under this permit that we have for the Hanford Sitewide. All right, so getting into how you can get involved. We mentioned this during our last public information meeting. There is an opportunity to learn more about all 52 of the facilities. You can utilize the baseball cards or the snapshots that you'll find on the landing page. Those are a good way to get a really brief understanding of each one of the facilities and maybe identify where you might have some interest in commenting on the Hanford Sitewide permit. We also have the landing website here where you can see information such as public meetings that have been recorded that have already occurred, such as this one that's going to be up there. Other public information meetings that we're going to have, as well as lunch and learns, public hearings that are going to occur in Seattle, Portland, Eastern Oregon, here in Richland, and a virtual one as well. All that information is up there for you to identify and participate in over this 120 days. So something we were working out on June 10th, and we were just finalizing as we were leading into the public comment period, is how we can dive deeper into the permit outside of some of these public information meetings that might be at a high level. The upcoming lunch and learn start next Wednesday on July 22nd. So we'll have one of our first lunch and learns about the structure of the permit, where we can answer some questions about different addenda, or the attachments, or the fact sheets, or the focus sheets. We're going to spend a lot of time during that lunch and learn hour talking about that. We have July 29th for ponds, ditches, and trenches associated with the Hanford Sitewide permit. August 5th, we'll talk about vitrification in the waste treatment plant. August 12th, we'll talk about the various effluents that are generated on the Hanford site and how they're treated, such as at the liquid effluent retention facility or the effluent treatment facility. August 19th, we'll talk about the solid waste operation complex, which includes facilities such as T-Plant, which has some treatment and storage capabilities, the central waste complex, trenches 31, 34, and maybe 94 as well. And August 26th, we'll talk about processing and research buildings that serve the plutonium weapons mission. Those include the plutonium uranium extraction plant and buildings such as 324 that are covered under the Hanford Sitewide permit. September 2nd, we'll talk about tanks. So we have single shell tanks, double shell tanks on the Hanford site. And then August 9th, we'll talk about the waste encapsulation storage facility and the capsule interim storage facility, which are those cesium and strontium capsules that are currently being transferred from wet storage to dry storage right now. So we have a little snapshot here of the landing page. And we wanted to hop in here real quickly and just do a little tour since it's now available for the public to see.
There it goes. You see it?
All right, it looks like folks can see it.
Yay.
So we'll scroll down a little bit to identify some really important links for folks as they hit this landing page. So in the I want to box, you'll identify there is a submit to comments link where you can submit your comments. So we'll talk about some other ways you can submit comments as well. And then how you can attend meetings and hearings, you'll find some information
Sorry, can I
about.
take a pause for a second?
Yeah.
Dana, can you reshare your screen to be the full screen and not just the presentation?
Let me. Wait, where do I do that? Stop sharing and reshare, okay. And then share. And. I didn't realize it didn't follow me.
All right, are
thank you.
folks able to see the landing page live now?
Yeah,
I think so. All right, sounds good. All right, so again, just kind of recovering some of that stuff that I talked about. In the I want to box, you'll identify where you can submit comments, how you can attend meetings or hearings that are going to be coming up here, as well as review the actual documentation that we have out for public comment right now. So we're going to hop into the Rev 9A site here and identify a few things on this site that are of importance and help folks kind of navigate it. And hopefully we'll dive more into this on July 22nd. So at the very top, I want to point out, because it was asked during the June 10th information meeting, if there would be a link to the determination of significance and the adoption of existing documents. We do have that link on this page here for folks that want to see that SEPA documentation. At the very top, you'll see fact sheets and focus sheets, the transmittal letter, and response to comments from 2012 if you're interested in that. Moving down, we have attachments. The attachments are an extension of the parts 1 and 2 conditions that apply to the entire Hanford Sitewide Permit as applicable. So you can see the titles of the attachments and how they might apply to different units on the Hanford site or the Hanford Sitewide Permit as a whole. You'll see the part 1 and 2 conditions, which apply to the entire unit as well. And we have 3, 4, 5, and 6, which cover those operating unit groups, closure unit groups, post-closure unit groups, and the corrective action unit groups that we were talking about as well. We've gotten some initial questions from folks about some of the particular facilities and why they may or may not have addenda associated with them. So we're going to hop into one right here, specifically the integrated disposal facility. This is a really good example of a unit group that's operating that covers just about all the addenda that are associated with the dangerous waste permit. On this, what you'll identify is the Part A form that Department of Energy submits to us. You'll see the waste analysis plan that will cover things like waste acceptance criteria for the landfill, what it can or cannot accept. You'll see other addenda such as process information, which really breaks down the makeup of the landfill, information such as that, drawings and other information. You'll see addenda D here, which covers groundwater monitoring of a landfill. That's very important for us to have for landfills on the Hanford site. As you can imagine, anything that has dangerous waste or radioactive waste needs security requirements. So we have addenda E, addenda F, preparedness and prevention. We have addenda G for personnel training, training requirements for those that operate the landfill. Addenda H for closure plan, when the landfill is no longer needed for the mission and needs to close. Addenda I for inspections of the landfill, the contingency plan under addenda J, and then a post-closure plan if necessary for us to continue to monitor the landfill after closure occurs. We also have at the very top here unit-specific conditions that apply to just the integrated disposal facility. And we have a fact sheet as well for the unit that dives a little deeper than the Hanford Sitewide fact sheet that we have out there as well.
Closure.
Yeah, so what we're gonna show here is one of the closing unit groups. Outdoor storage area B is a good example of a unit group that doesn't have all those addenda associated with it. The main purpose of this unit group, as it sits right now, is for us to oversee the closure of that unit group by Department of Energy. So we have a draft closure plan here that Department of Energy will be required to implement when this permit becomes issued and effective. I find it very important to kind of point that out for the 52 unit groups. As I had mentioned before, 34 of them are closing unit groups and are required to close when this permit becomes issued and effective. And we'll work closely with Department of Energy to make sure they execute on those closures of those unit groups when the red line gets out there.
Anything else you want to show here?
Nope, I think we're good.
Is this showing?
No, it's still on the webpage.
Of course.
All right, so we're gonna head back to the slides here and offer up a little more information, then we'll open it up for Q&A.
Just current slide on.
14.
Ta-da. There we go. Ta-da.
All right, as I mentioned, on the landing page, you do have a link there where you can submit public comments. You can also submit comments at Hanford@ecology.wa.gov. You can provide oral testimony during the number of public hearings that we're gonna have in September and October. And you can also mail or deliver your comments to Department of Ecology at 3100 Port of Benton Boulevard with attention to Dana McFadden here, who is our collector of comments. It will help us kind of sort through this when they start coming in. All right, well, I appreciate everybody's time and definitely want to take the time tonight to answer any questions that folks might have in the room or online.
So if you're joining us online, you can either raise your hand and I can unmute you, or you can type your comment into the chat box. I'm also sharing in the chat the meeting, the link to the meeting feedback survey that you can take at your leisure.
I've been reading about FMEA, the Department of Energy's endeavor to they leased a building for high assay low enrichment uranium production, at least research into that or something. So did I understand from your presentation that ventures like that would be completely separate from the Hanford cleanup mission, or because that's a DOE project, would that fall under something like this?
Yeah, so I think that's a great question, and especially relates to what's covered under the permit and what's not covered under the permit. So my understanding of FMEF, and I'm drawing a blank on exactly the terminology that's associated with that acronym, but that building was not utilized by Department of Energy. It is not covered under the tri-party agreement where we have a list of unit groups under Appendix B, I believe it is, for the dangerous waste permitted facilities. And it's not covered under Appendix C, which covers the operable unit groups that are associated with the cleanup mission on the Hanford site. We are aware of the interest in FMEF. And we're certainly ready to engage in any way necessary to have that process reviewed by the Department of Ecology, as applicable at this point, yeah.
We had a question come in online that says, can you use an example of a unit in the permit and talk through the way a unit goes from, quote, cradle to grave, end quote, through the permitting process?
Okay, that's a life cycle question for any of the facilities on the Hanford site. So cradle to grave obviously means something a little bit different for me when we're talking about dangerous waste that's generated on the Hanford site and from generation to disposal, right? So the facilities on the Hanford site have a mission, right? Department of Energy has identified how they're going to use the facilities, whether for treatment, storage, or disposal of waste. A good example of that is maybe a landfill, right? So a landfill's purpose on the Hanford site that's permitted by us is to accept mixed waste or dangerous waste for disposal as it meets the land disposal restriction requirements. So as a landfill is designed and developed, Department of Energy would submit the permits to us to permit that particular landfill. They would construct that landfill, and a good example is the integrated disposal facility that just came online maybe a couple of months ago at this time. And each landfill has a capacity, right? So there's a capacity of how much dangerous waste can be treated and then disposed of in that landfill. Once it reaches that capacity, Department of Energy has an obligation to close that landfill and follow the requirements under the closure plan that we oversee. They complete those closure activities, submit a IQRP report to us, independent, drawing a blank on IQRP.
Qualified registered professional engineer.
There you go. Right. So they submit that report to us. We review that report to ensure that they met the standards under the closure plan and under dangerous waste management requirements. And we go through closure of that particular unit, for example. So life cycle in 30 seconds for a particular facility. There you go.
Do you have a question back there, David? No, okay. I thought earlier he was starting to raise his hand. Do we have any other questions? Do you have any more, Ben?
Not yet.
I got
No more questions yet.
Quiet tonight.
So Dan Solitz, I see your hand raised. I'm going to unmute you right now so you can ask that.
Okay, hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
All right, yeah, on closing these things out, will it be like a final inspection report that will be available for viewing? I mean, how is that process actually physically going to work?
And can you identify what process you're referring to?
Oh, well, say you close the IDF.
Yes.
What does that mean? You just somebody writes down it's been closed, or do you go out and take a look at it, review the history, or what's involved in that?
Yeah, so I would refer you to the closure plan of any particular dangerous waste management unit. When you look at the closure plan, it establishes the standard for closure of that unit group, right? So Department of Energy has to meet all those standards in those closure plan, complete all the actions within the closure plan. They develop a report that they issue to us, and I believe it goes into the administrative record. So when you're talking about inspection or something that you could see, you can refer both to the closure plan and the report that's submitted to Ecology that we review. Once we review that report and we feel that it has satisfied all the requirements under dangerous waste as well as the closure plan itself, we will issue a letter back identifying that they have met those standards and that facility is closed. We will go through some administrative actions associated with the permit, if applicable, to remove that unit group from the permit moving forward.
So this doesn't involve actually going out and looking at it?
Yes, we do spend time out at the Hanford site. A good example of that is outside storage area A at the Central Waste Complex. They have recently gone through sampling that they needed to do under the closure plan. Our staff at the Nuclear Waste Program have gone out during those sampling events and has closely worked with Department of Energy and its contractors during that closure process that's currently going on right now.
Okay, thank you. Well, another example would be the evap. Eventually you close the evaporator. Will it be just a on grade, 5 on grade, or what will that closure or that final statement look like, and how will that be accomplished?
I apologize for not having the answer for that, exactly how 242A evaporator is going to be closed. But I would refer you to the closure plan to see how that facility is going to close when it no longer serves a mission for Department of Energy and its contractors for the cleanup. The
And-
closure plan is a good place to look, but Annette, you had something as well.
I think if you're asking the question, would it go out for public review? For example, an operating unit group would become a closing unit group. And there might be a schedule associated with closure. We would have to look at the appropriate permit modification, but it might be provided for public review. Is that kind of what you're asking? Would you get a chance to look at the closure?
Yeah. Get a look at it, see if it's been done properly, and if nothing comes up later on during the handling of it as a legacy site, like other areas have had problems. Not specifically Hanford. Yeah.
Okay, Dan, I'm gonna put you back on mute, but if you have any other questions, just feel free to raise your hand.
All righty, thank you.
Do we have anybody in the room who has any questions? Oh,
We have 2 here.
okay, good, go for it.
So I'll repeat this first question twice. Can you give an example of a comment that was received and addressed in the recent permit, Rev 9A? Can you give an example of a comment that was received and addressed in the recent permit, Rev 9A?
So I would refer you to the response to comments link, where we addressed all 5,000 plus comments that we received in 2012. And in those responses to comments, it'll identify if something was changed in the permit, if we made any type of modification. We responded to all 5,000 plus comments. I don't have a particular example for you off the top of my head, but they all are available for review on the landing page in the permit document page that you'll see a link up top for.
The other question, which I'll read twice again. How does this comment period, where the entire permit is under review, differ from a permit modification comment period? How does this comment period, where the entire permit is under review, differ from a permit modification comment period?
Want to take a shot at what class 2s and 3s and renewals entail?
Yeah. So this comment period, which is the Hanford Sitewide Permit Renewal, is a permit renewal. Permits are supposed to be renewed every 10 years. So obviously we're past the 10-year mark for this. So, so this particular comment period, the entire permit is out for review. If it's a permit modification on a portion of the permit, only that portion of the permit and the conditions are out for public review. So there's various types of permit modifications. A class 2 permit modification is a specific time frame in which the permittees propose a permit modification that would be required under the dangerous waste regulations. And so that has a period of 60 days, and ecology has a requirement to make a decision 30 days after that comment period to either accept or approve, deny, or reclassify. So that is one type of permit modification, and so only a portion of the permit would be out for review. A class 3 permit modification, which is kind of a bigger modification, it's a bigger in scope. Sometimes for the Hanford Sitewide renewal, it's adding a new unit group into the permit. And so that is kind of 2 public comment periods in one, permit modification. So the first is the permittees propose permit modification for 60-day comment period. And so after the 60 days, ecology makes a decision, a completeness determination. We do a technical review. And then following that, then we draft permit conditions. We make any kind of necessary changes as agreed to with the permittees. And then we go out for ecology, when I'm saying we, ecology goes out for a 45-day comment period. So that's a little bigger in scope. There's also agency initiated or ecology initiated public comment periods. And a lot of times you see that associated with the waste treatment and mobilization plant permit because it's under a phased permitting configuration. So you would only see those once in a while, an agency initiated, but that's 45 days of a comment period. So anyway, I hope that answered your question, but kind of provides a little delineation between the permit renewal where everything goes out, the entire permit is available versus a permit modification that's a little smaller in scope.
Any questions in the room? Nope, it's a quiet bunch here today.
Called me earlier, I didn't have a question, but now I have one.
Go ahead, David, your turn.
I thought I saw up there that part of the permit covers, training or training procedures, is that correct?
Yes.
And is that for the entirety of the Hanford site and all the work that's done out there, or is it within a specific scope?
So typically, training requirements that are covered under addenda I are specific to jobs on the Hanford site, right? So those that do characterization of waste, those that are responsible for getting packages ready for transportation or inspections, those that handle waste will have training requirements that are strictly applicable to the dangerous waste activities that they're responsible for. So a lot of the training plans that you'll see, there'll be like a table in there, and in that table, you'll see a series of jobs. And then in columns, typically you'll see the applicable training that's associated with that job that they have to do on some frequency. Yes. So.
Thank you.
Yep.
And does DOE issue some kind of status report on the different tasks or cleanup tasks throughout, or is it just it's all defined in the permit and they're gonna go and just hit it?
Yeah, so status reports, I'm trying to think of some examples of like, there are a series of conditions, whether it's the Hanford Sitewide conditions, 1s and 2s, or the unit specific conditions that require Department of Energy to report to us on some frequency. Groundwater monitoring plans, for example, we certainly have conditions and things that are written into the plans themselves where there's a frequency for Department of Energy to report out to us on groundwater monitoring. There are operating records that Department of Energy is required to keep in their record system that our staff are able to request at any point in time, whether it's during an inspection or a site visit, or if it's just a records request, we can do so, at the office or whatever. So there are a significant number of reporting requirements that come with managing dangerous waste, and those are written into the conditions in the addenda themselves.
We have a question online. I'll read it twice. Why is the RCRA permit important? And can you give an example about how it deals with Hanford tank waste? The question was 2 questions. Why is the RCRA permit important? And can you give an example of how it deals with Hanford tank waste?
I think the perfect example of that is vitrification that started back up in October of 2025. It's been a long time coming. Department of Energy has done a significant amount of work to remove tank waste from the single shell tank systems and store them in the double shell tank systems. For the longest time, the only treatment that was available was the 242A evaporator, where they were able to volume reduce the amount of waste that was in the double shell tanks to help them facilitate further retrievals. But here today, and actually many years before this, we started pre-treatment of tank waste, right? So the tank size cesium removal system was permitted by Department of Ecology and constructed and operated by Department of Energy and its contractors. That facilitated a significant amount of waste, nearly 1 million gallons of waste. I think initially it was 800,000 gallons they had to meet to pre-treat it, to remove the cesium and the strontium from the tank waste, to prepare it for acceptance at direct feed low activity waste treatment system that came online in October of 2025, which is now treating tank waste, turning tank waste into glass, into a stable form for final disposal at another facility that we're responsible for and permitted, the integrated disposal facility, where as of today, there are containers of glass heading to IDF for final disposal because it is now in that stable form and no longer in the tanks that we have on the Hanford site.
Any other questions? Yeah. Okay, we'll give it just a couple more minutes to see if anybody online comes up. Sometimes it takes a little bit to type in a question. We appreciate everybody coming out tonight, listening to our presentation and asking us questions. We hope that you ask us more questions as we go along this process. Take advantage of our website and learn more about the site-wide permit and the different units that are out there. Yeah. Anyone coming up there? Okay, one last call for questions in the room. Any more? No, it's quiet. Anyone coming up online, Ben? Okay, then I think we'll close it. Thank you, everybody, for showing up tonight. Please, if you come up with questions later, please, you can email us at hanford@ecology.wa.gov. We love to answer questions. And have a nice evening.